Hello YouTube friends. I don't often do painting videos, but I thought I'd do one today because it's a pretty easy one to show. As usual, I'm showing you some of my little cards that I paint. I usually just tack these on to the end, but some of you might be interested to see what I'm doing. I've started doing a little more ink in some of my florals just for fun. A lot of these have ink outlines that I put on first, and so the video today is going to show you how I do that. You can also add the ink later, as in some of these. The one that I'm painting is some purple coneflowers that I really enjoyed. As a matter of fact, I liked this painting so much I ended up keeping it. I just like that pink color. So here we go. I don't often share painting videos, mostly because videotaping myself while I paint makes me really nervous. And I know it'll be terrible, but this isn't hard at all. And I should tell you what I've done first is put down a sketch in ink, and the pen that I used is just a Micron 02. And I'm embarrassed to say that even though, let me see, does it say it on here? La-di-da, I thought I found it on here. Yes. Micropigment ink for waterproof and fade-proof fine lines. It says waterproof, and yet I've been using Micron pens for like, what, 2 years? I love Micron pens, and I didn't know they were waterproof, and so I didn't know that you could put the ink down first and then paint over it. So for the last couple of years, I've been painting things and then outlining them in ink, which is fine. But I'm really enjoying this. These are purple coneflowers. I've got some a little bit of this. This is a pink I mixed up here. It is a combination of, let me see, Bright Opera. This is a Mission Gold. And what else did I put in there? I think I put a little bit of this bright clear violet Mission Gold. Okay. It is a very bright violet. And because I wanted to, but it's mostly pink. And I've got it pretty watery, and so I'm just going back, and you see when you lay it down, it's quite thin. And this is a size 2 brush. This is just a little card. This is a 5x7 card. And then after I get some of them done here, while the paint is still a little bit damp, then I go back and I get a little bit of that purple. That's a bit more than I wanted. And put it there so that it'll move down the flower. And when it dries, it fades like this. I really like this look with the pink and the purple. This one's going to be a bit more than I want. And if you, while things are still wet, you can push watercolor paint back up. You can even put a little bit of the paint back in there if I feel like the purple was too much. That's a little better. Okay. This is what I do in the mornings. Many mornings. I can't say all mornings. I wish it were all mornings. Is I paint. I paint as long as I enjoy it. Now, if I ever get to a point where I'm kind of frustrated trying to figure out what I want to paint, or I'm tired, or I feel like doing something else, I don't ever make myself paint, because in my opinion, that's a surefire way to make it so that I get sick of painting before you know it, and that's one thing I don't ever want to do. So I only do it when I enjoy it. Now, I'm not advocating that for all of life. Some things you have to do whether you like it or not, but painting is very much just a relaxing activity for me. I do sell my cards, so I make a little money off of it. But the main reason I do it is to help me relax and de-stress. I did just put some new of that violet into my palette, and so it's a little bit darker than it was earlier, but it seems like it's doing just fine. I love how after it dries, it just really does blend in well. This will blend in like the others. It's slowly moving. Watercolor pigment will only travel if it is wet and in contact with water. And so because the violet is right next to the pink, which is also wet still, then it will travel into the pink. That's what I love about watercolor, is that it moves on its own. That makes it unpredictable, but it also makes it fun. I'm rinsing my brush out before I go into these colors. And I'm just bringing over the teeniest bit of violet, and even then you see what it does. Okay, I've got a few more that are kind of behind. I'm going to do the centers of these coneflowers last. Different watercolor paper behaves differently. Some of them absorb the wet pigment so fast that you barely have time to get back there and add a different color that you want to blend with it, that you want to move into it, and you have to work really fast. These cards are Strathmore. I order them in a box of 50 or 100. Oh, I didn't get those petals earlier. And they work pretty well for my purpose. This is not fine watercolor paper, although it's not the worst. Most people really love Arches or something comparable to Arches paper. Don't know that Arches makes cards and matching envelopes. I think painting cards is a little bit of a plebeian artistic practice. If you're serious about your art, then you're probably out doing bigger pieces on fancy paper. Okay. You know what I didn't do? I didn't put a head on that. I think I will go ahead in and do the leaves and stems now. For them, I'm going to do what so many people do. I have all these fancy greens. I've got olive, and I've got hooker's green, and viridian, and a whole bunch of others. Seriously, I'll just show you real quick all my greens. Here are the greens in my kuretake pan. Okay. And then here's a variety of greens I've got here. This is my olive, which is in a tube, and I mix it with Payne's gray and with other things. Sap green, hooker's green, and viridian, and some indigo that actually looks green. But the thing that everybody seems to use, sap green. So, sap green it is. Again, this is almost, it's not like comic strip material, but it's, the ink outlining gives it a whimsical look. And so it's kind of supposed to have I wouldn't call it sloppy, but a little bit of a slapdash look to it. That's why the stems down here are kind of hit and miss. They're not solid, continuous lines. That's intentional. Okay. Now this little brush is a 0. It's a little small for my purposes, but I feel like if I get something bigger, I won't like it. I did pull up a photograph of purple coneflowers on Google so that I could get the shape of the flowers, and then also the leaves are pointy. This is almost a dry on dry. It's just that I'm not, there's no movement for this, for these leaves. This paint when I'm putting it down. That's okay though. I really like the idea that there's kind of not a right and wrong when you paint. Whatever gets you the effect that you want, that's what's right. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to go study the heads of these flowers and come back and do those centers and see what color I want to do for that. Okay, so I've looked at these heads of these coneflowers. They're not supposed to poke up so much like a cone is to be more flat, but like this one is a better shape perhaps than this one. But that's okay. In watercolor particularly, your goal is generally not to give an exact depiction of the thing you're painting, but to give an impression of it. But what I want to try to do to get the color here is I'm going to take a little bit of a color called red-brown. Let's try this one over here, and I'm going to lay it around the edge. And then I'm going to take some orange that I've combined with red, put it on the top, and even that is too much pigment. See how gloopy it is? Sometimes if you get too much pigment, you can't even really see your color. There's just so much paint. I almost feel like I need something a little bit darker around the edge. That one was a bit of an experimentation. It's true that watercolor tends to lighten over time as it dries. This time I think I'll put the orange on first. Let's do this one. Try to round it out more on the top. Let's see if that will move up a little bit. I don't want to intentionally blend it. I kind of like what this has done here, where it's got almost a line of demarcation there. Okay. I'm liking this pretty well. I do want these seed head centers to stand out, because they certainly do on the real flower. And every one doesn't have to look the same. Now, this is where you can tell I'm an amateur, because I put some paint down and then it was too much, and then I took it up and I took up too much, and so you can see that I'm really experimenting. And I've never painted, I've painted I think one purple coneflower before, but no, I've done more than that. It's been a long time since I've done this particular flower, and I've never done them this way before. Because I have that ink in there, I'm really trying to take that paint to the edge. I think I more often paint without ink than with it, I would say. And because I love watercolor itself, and if you combine it with another medium, you get a different effect. So I love to just have a painting where I'm watching the watercolor do its own thing. I am a fiddler from way back, and I love to mess with things and fiddle with things, and sometimes that can be pretty deadly in watercolor. You have to know when something is done, and even if you don't like it, you then have to realize it's done, because anything you do to it is going to make it worse, even if it's not perfect yet. That's a very hard. If it's done and it looks perfect, and you learn how to stop fiddling, then that's great. That's one skill. But learning how to stop fiddling when something is imperfect, it's not what you want, but you're only going to make it worse, that's really hard to do. I paint almost only cards like this, and because they're small, it means that my paint brushes are generally smaller. I do have some large brushes, but mostly I paint with brushes. I use what is this one? I use a Neptune 6 a lot, and then I use these zeros, and that's almost all that I use. Excuse me. I could use like a Van Dyke brown or some other kind of brown, but the photographs I'm looking at really seem to indicate, although the base of the head is darker, it still has that red look. Now these are seed heads, and they do have little seeds in them, but I'm not going to really attempt that. I could put some little black dots on there with a small micron pen, and that's a possibility. Okay, that's about done. I hope you enjoyed watching me do that. So there's the finished piece. Pretty fun. Thanks for joining me. And now for your enjoyment. The rest of this video, the next 6 minutes, is just some silent spinning that I did recently. Occasionally, this is just a pleasant thing to do, is to watch somebody do a repetitive movement that's just very peaceful and calming. And for those of you who maybe don't spin but like to watch people spin, this is for you. The wool that I'm spinning is the sheep's wool that my friend Lynn gave me. And after I spin it like this, I triple ply it by chain plying, is what I mean. I chain ply it. Anyway, that's my Fantasia. It's a Kromski, is the company, Fantasia wheel, and the off-white sheep's wool. Without further ado, here's the rest of the spinning. There's one rolag. I've got 3 more in here that I'll do later.